Everyone, aloha and welcome to today's conversation, which is all about Samhain, because it's the 1st of November today. And over in our Facebook, in our Facebook group, The Secret Art of Huna, for the ladies in there, some of the ladies in there join me to embrace this time of year and have a special meditation for Samhain. So Samhain, and my phone's going off in appreciation for all this. So Samhain in ancient times, the 1st of November, was a really important festival because it's our halfway point. It's halfway between the equinox, the time when night and day are of equal lengths, and the solstice, which is when night and day are at their most unequal. So, of course, if you're in the northern hemisphere, it means that we're coming up for the winter solstice, when the nights are long and the days are very short. And if you're in the southern hemisphere, then it's vice versa. So Samhain was this halfway point, this boundary point, where you really started to notice the difference, moving out of the equinox into this phase where the days were definitely shorter. So at the moment in the UK, at least, we get about 9.5 hours of daylight, which means that we've got about 14.5 hours of night. And you really start to notice when the difference is like that. So it's a very special point. And from a Celtic perspective, this was the time when the boundary, the veil between the living world and the spirit world, the world of the living, the world of the dead, was at its thinnest. So it was the point when you could have communication with the spirit world. But it was also the time when it was a recognition that this was now winter. It's the official start to winter, if you like, in the Celtic system. It was a time when they'd bring the cattle down from the pastures. They'd slaughter the cattle. They'd smoke the meat. They'd pickle the meat. They'd do what they could to preserve the meat to keep them through the winter. And at the same time, they'd make offerings to the gods, to the ancients, to give them good health and food through the winter, because obviously this was a time when things would not be growing. So in modern times now, I don't know about you, but I ain't got no cattle, but I do have a little garden. And so this is, for me, a time when I start to look in the garden. There may be plants that I bring into the house because they won't survive the winter outside. I don't have a greenhouse. If I did, there might be things I'd put in the greenhouse. And there are plants that I'll kind of gather together and wrap them around because they're going to stay outside. But I want them to stay, I want them to survive through winter. So it's a time of making sure that everything is safe for this season, for the cold that's coming in the northern hemisphere. It's also a time of offering. So it's a time of planting as well. So we plant our bulbs, we plant our trees. They're not going to do much growing over the winter phase, but this is the time now that we actually do the planting. So it's a boundary, it's a time of finishing the harvest, preparing for the winter months, or preparing for the summer months if you're in the southern hemisphere. But it's a time of preparation, and it's a time of in the northern hemisphere, it's a time of turning inward. We go indoors, we sit round the fire. Whereas in the southern hemisphere, it's a time of expansion because you're coming into summer. You're more likely to be starting to go outdoors. So if it's all of those things, then metaphorically, how can we in the modern world use this boundary time, this point when we really start to notice the change in the seasons from either from summer to winter or from winter to summer, depending where you are? How can we use this boundary time? And what might we be, how can we think about it in a metaphoric way? So one of the things that you might want to be thinking about, given that it is a time of planting, that it's time of planting particular things and they're not going to grow through the winter, what do you want to plant at this point that you'll start to see the growth of sometime, probably February, March, later on next year? So what are your bulbs? What are your trees? What are the projects that you want to lay the foundations for, knowing that they may not see results really until the spring? What do you want to do in the way of offerings? So in ancient times, they would make offerings of food, of they'd slaughter animals, they'd make offerings of food to the gods. But what do you want your offerings to be? So if you're what are your prayers? That's the planting as well. What are you praying for during this season? But what do you want to offer in the way of offerings? What are you going to do to what in terms of your time, your money, your energy, in order that those seeds, those bulbs and trees that you're planting, those projects that you're planting at this point, can in fact come into some sort of fruition in the spring. So where's your energy going to go? Where's your time going to go? Where's your focus going to go? What's your energetic offering, if you like? It may be that you have rituals. It may be that you actually go out and make an offering into nature. So one of the things I do this time is I go around my garden and I'll look at my different plants and see what I need to do with them, whether there's a bit of final pruning that needs to happen, or a bit of fleecing up, or actually in some cases just digging them up, because especially if they've had blight. But what do I need to do to prepare the garden for this next season? If you are making offerings in nature, then please make them organic. Our local Standing Stones, which is an ancient sacred site, I go up there and there are people, and they've put little strands from plastic bags. They've put things sprayed with gilt paint. They've put artificial bows made from plastic or not pure cotton. So organic really is important. But what offerings do you want to make? What ritual offerings do you want to make to celebrate this point where you're planting the seeds of your projects, and also offerings to the gods, as it were, offerings to the universe, that this to signify this is what I want to do. These are the projects. This is what I want to be planting for the spring. Another thing to be thinking about is this is a time, as I said earlier, it's the inward focus in the Northern Hemisphere. We start to turn in on ourselves. So what reflection can you make? What are you reflecting on from the year that's gone, or from the season that's gone, the time between the equinox and now? What are you reflecting on? What do you notice? What are you, if you like, what are you putting to bed? What are you bringing to an end now, so that you can free up the energy and for the new season, for the winter time? And what do you want to see happening in your life even between now and solstice? So there's that shorter time frame. What things do you want to happen between now and solstice? What new rituals do you want to put into place to sustain you through these winter months? So that's my invitation to you, to look at this as a sacred time. It's also a time where, as I said earlier, we're more in touch. We have the opportunity to be more in touch with the ancestors. So from an ancestral point of view, is there anything that you want to do from that perspective? Is there honoring of people who've passed on, or projects that have passed on, things that are now history for you, that you want to honor at this point? We light a candle, and if you go into a Catholic church, you'll often see people at any time of the year lighting candles for the souls of the departed, to honor the departed. But it's not just about honoring dead people. But what about your dead projects, the things that you wish to leave behind you, so that you can move on? And candle meditation is such a great thing. That's what we did this morning in the Facebook group. So candle meditation is a really powerful meditation. You can just do it. You take a candle. I have one here. You take a little candle, light it, and you can focus on it and meditate it and become one with the candle. And you can use it for release work as well. You can dissolve old projects into the candle and connect with and allow yourself to dissolve as well. So hi, Sylvie. So those are some ideas that you might use this time for. And hey, if you don't, that's absolutely fine too. But having that sacred time, allowing yourself that sacred space as we noticeably pass from the old season into the new season, as I say, from autumn, from summer into winter, or from winter from winter into and spring into the summer. So I hope that's been interesting and useful. If you want to find the meditation, then the Secret Art of Huna for Powerful Transformation Facebook group, if you're a woman, that's the place to find it. And I look forward to connecting with you at some point down the line. Take care. Happy Samhain. Happy winter. And see you very soon. Lots of love.